Now that we have our guards patrolling the area, we need Darren to find a way to sneak past them. We're going to create a distraction system where Darren will toss a coin into the map and cause the guards to check out what the disturbance was. In this section, you'll be introduced to a design pattern called the observer pattern, which will notify the guards of the disturbance. We'll start by creating the functionality for Darren to throw a coin. In this video, we're going to look at creating our coin detection system or a coin distraction system, where Darren's going to have the ability to toss a coin and distract the guards. Let's go ahead and play our game and see what we currently have. So here's Darren, and the guards are patrolling. And what's going to happen here is we're going to watch this first guard on how to get past him, and we're going to move to the second guard here. What we want to do is get past him. You'll see here he's intruding the passageway. Like, no matter what, I'm going to get caught if I look at him or go around him. So what can we do? One thing we can do is in this corner here, we want to right click and toss a coin in that area. And what that's going to do is that's going to notify all the guards, and they're going to move to that area. So let's look at how to create something like that. If you look in the game view, the game project here, and if you go into your prefabs, we have a coin here. And this coin is basically what we're going to instantiate. We're going to instantiate this game object wherever we right click in the scene, and we're going to play a sound effect of a coin dropping. From there, we're going to talk with the AI, and they're going to all be notified that there was a disturbance in this area, and they're all going to get called to that region. So to get started with this, we want to basically create the ability for Darren to toss the coin. So let's look at our player. And if we go into our player script here we have our player. If we go into our player script, we have a few things. Here's where we left click. All right, and we're doing all this. If we left click, we're casting a ray, we're moving to that position, and if we're at the position, then we stop moving. All right, so this is all of our movement code here. One of the things that we can do is we can actually right click now. So let's add in some right click logic here. So if right click, which is going to be a 1 instead of a 0, 2 is the mouse wheel. If you right click, we want to instantiate that coin game object. So instantiate that coin at clicked position. Okay? So very similar to our left click, you're going to have to create similar logic to toss the coin. At the same time, after you toss the coin, I want you to play a sound effect of that coin. So we have an audio source, or we have an audio file for that coin. Go ahead and basically create the sound effect for that. So if you right click, instantiate the coin at clicked position, play sound effect for coin drop. From there, we'll create the AI interaction. But let's focus on this part first. I'll see you in the challenge review. In this challenge review, we're going to look at how to create the coin distraction system. So the first thing I want to do here is just begin filling in our pseudocode. So let's first check for if we right click. It's a simple if statement, and we're checking for if input.getMouseButton down. So if we right click, and the int button is going to be a 1. 0 is for left click, 1 is for right click, and 2 is for the mouse wheel. So if I right click, then what needs to happen? I need to instantiate that coin at the clicked position. So here, I can start off by instantiating the coin, and I need to create a game object to hold that coin. So here, public game object, coin. And what we can do now, and let's go ahead and change that to coin prefab. So we know it's a prefab. Let's hop back down here. The object we're going to instantiate is the coin prefab. I'm going to instantiate it at the clicked position, which we don't know yet, right? We need to use ray casting to get that hit position. So for now, let's just say transform.position, and then we don't care about rotation. So we're going to say quaternion.identity. From here, we're instantiating it. Now what we want to do is also play a sound effect. So what's the sound effect that we want to play? If we look into our scripts here, or if our folder structure, we have an audio folder. And inside here, we have sound effects. We have a coin drop sound effect. That sounds like this. So let's go ahead and we need to create a reference to this clip because we're going to instantiate this with the coin. So what we can do is we can hop back over to our script here. Let's create another public game object variable, or not a game object variable, but an audio clip variable. And let's call this coin sound effect. Save your script, hop back over to Unity. If you select your player, you'll see here that we have a few variables to fill. You'll see here that's looking for the coin prefab. So if you drop open your prefabs folder, we can drag the coin in there. So just take your coin, drag it to the coin prefab slot, and same for the coin sound effect. Grab the sound effect coin drop and drag it to the coin sound effect property on our player. Now that those are assigned, save your scene, hop back into your code, and let's work on the next part. We want to play that sound effect for the coin drop. So to do that, we use something called audio source.playClipAtPoint. So audio source.playClipAtPoint. And from here, we have an audio clip that we want to play, which is our sound effect, so coin sound effect, and the position that we want to play this. We want to play this at the, I would say at the position of our player so that we can hear it. We want to make sure that our main camera is going to pick this sound up. So actually, maybe let's go ahead and actually play it where the coin drops. We'll have to experiment with this. When you're working with spatial audio, you want to make sure that the player is going to hear it. So we're either going to instantiate it where the coin is dropped, we're going to either instantiate it where the player is, or we're actually going to just play this at the camera position so that the player is guaranteed to hear it. So I think we're going to go ahead and use, for now, let's just use transform.position and see how it sounds. Let's save this and let's test it out. Go ahead and run Unity. All right, let that boot up. Okay, so here we are. Let's get past this first guard here. All right, let's hop over here. And the goal is that once you're here, we want to go ahead and instantiate that coin by right-clicking over here. So I heard it on my end very subtly. It was a very subtle sound, but I think it was okay, and I think it was good enough. If you want, you can definitely research how to instantiate that at the main camera's position. You can also choose to instantiate it at the hitInfo.point once we create that functionality. So let's go ahead and continue on and actually make that coin appear where we right-click so we can see it in the game. So to do this, we need to open up our script, and we need to actually create an array for where we want to instantiate this. So here, if we if we right click, we need to cast our array. So we're going to have array origin, and the array origin is going to be from our camera.main, and we're going to cast it from the screen point to array mouse position. So we're going to say camera.main.screen point to array, and the position of this array is going to come from our mouse position using input.mouse position. Now that we have array origin, we want to store where we click into raycast hit. So we're going to call this hit info. Whatever object we click on when we right click, that value is going to be stored, or that object or that position is going to be stored in raycast hit. So from here, we'll cast the ray using an if statement, physics.raycast, and from here, we need to populate it with the third option. We're going to cast a ray, and we're going to output the information that we hit. So here, we're going to say ray origin. So we're going to cast it from our mouse position, and whatever it hits, we're going to output that information into hit info so we can access it later. After we've done that, we want to then go ahead and take this instantiate code and the audio code, cut that, and paste it inside the if statement. Because if this if statement got called, that means that if this if statement gets called, that means that we successfully clicked on a collider area that our coin can drop on. So let's clean up our code here, our brackets. Let's save this, test it out. Let Unity compile. And let's see how it looks. All right, so here we go. So let's go ahead and make it past the first guard here. All right, we'll move over to here. Let's get behind this guard. We want to make sure we trigger that second camera so we can see. I'm going to drop the coin in this corner here. Now I right clicked and I heard it, but I did not actually see the coin, and I actually don't see the coin. And the reason for that is because I forgot to update the actual hit position. So right now I'm still instantiating it at the player's position. I want to instead instantiate this at the hitInfo.point. Another issue with this is that we're throwing multiple coins. We definitely don't want to be able to throw multiple coins. We want to give the player one shot. So we're going to make sure that they can only throw the coin one time. They have one shot to get past those guards. So let's go ahead. Let's sneak past this first guard. Let's head on over to here. Once the camera switches, we have an area to throw the coin in. I'm going to click in this area. I toss the coin. It instantiated, however, I don't actually see it in the scene view. So let's zoom in on it. So it looks like it's getting instantiated out of nowhere. It looks like it's having some weird world space issues here. And it looks like it's because of the game object. Let's inspect this prefab. If we look at the coin prefab here and bring it into the scene, let's zoom in on this. So here's our coin, but it looks like it has other game object properties. So here we have, and if you want to get rid of this little light thing, I believe this is the light probe that's on it, or it's like a material. It's just a gizmo that you can hide. So if you drop down this gizmo, and we can say 3D icons. There we go, just shrink it down. Okay, so here's our coin. Now, what is happening with this? So it looks like it's an apparent object. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be inside a parent object. I think it's getting some weird spatial issues by being in a parent object. It has some properties on it. Let's delete this remove key. Let's delete the audio source component on it. We can also delete the animator component. I don't believe we have a coin animation. We do not. So select that coin and let's clean it up. Remove the animator component. From here, we should just be able to take this coin. Let's delete the old prefab. And let's drag this back in. From there, you can delete the coin from the hierarchy, select your player, and redrag the coin back to the coin prefab. From here, save your scene. Let's play Unity. And let's see if the issue persists. So here we are. Let's sneak past the first guard. All right, we're about to do a camera change. Let's toss the coin. And it still seems to be getting spawned in a very odd place. Oh, actually, you know what? So this time it is actually on the ground and we have multiple coins here. We actually just can't see it in the game view. One of the things we could do possibly is let's increase the scale of this coin. If we make it like 0.2, there we go. So you can see here it's 0.2, 0.2. Now you can actually see the gold coin in the corner there. So let's go ahead and change that property of the prefab. Select the coin and let's make it 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2. From there, we should be good to go. And maybe even 0.15. Save your scene, run your game one last time, and let's verify that the coin shows up properly. Get past this security guard. Let's go to the second guard. And what we need to do is we need to toss this coin here. And there we go. We can now see the coin. And the next challenge, we're going to focus on preventing the player from tossing multiple coins. In this challenge, we want to limit the amount of times that Darren can throw the coin. So looking at our code here, what is the logic for creating something like that? As of right now, every time you every time you right click, we're just casting array, and if we hit something, we're instantiating a coin and playing the sound effect. How can we limit the ability for Darren to throw a coin? So there's no logic right now to prevent this, which means we have to create that logic. So to do that, you can create a bool that determines if the coin was already thrown. So like for instance, has thrown coin. And if you haven't, you can throw the coin. But if you have, then that variable becomes true and it prevents us from right clicking again. So figure that out, and I'll see you in the challenge review. In this challenge review, let's go ahead and limit the player from throwing multiple coins. To do this, we just need to block him from pressing the right mouse button more than once. The easiest solution here is to create a private bool called coin tossed. So here, private bool coin tossed, by default, it's going to be false. Now, when do we set that variable to true? As soon as you right click, we're going to say, and actually not necessarily as soon as you right click, because what if you click on something that's not a collider? We only want to actually we only want to signify that you've actually tossed that coin when you actually instantiate it, which is inside this if statement. So right in here, we're going to say coin tossed equals true. And now we just need to prevent it. This isn't enough just to do this. We're not actually making use of this variable. Instead, what we want to do is if input.getMouseButtonDown1, and we want to check that coin tossed is equal to false, meaning you haven't tossed it yet. Because as soon as you do toss it, and as soon as you touch a valid surface for the coin to land on, we're going to go ahead and say coin tossed equals true, meaning that this condition will never be true again, allowing you to only toss the coin once. If we hop back into Unity and let our code compile, we'll run the game, test it out, and we should be good to go. You can see here, we're going to sneak past this first guard. Let's go ahead and change camera positions. And I'm going to toss the coin, and there we go. And I can't toss anymore, there's no sound effects, so everything is working great. So in the next video, we're going to look at the logic for creating a notification system for all of the guards to go to that position. In this video, we're going to look at the logic and the problem at hand for sending the guards to the coin. So currently, I want to go ahead and play the game and get to the point where I'm going to toss my coin. What do all of the guards have in common? Every guard has a navmesh agent component that they have to stick to, and they all have their routes that they're moving to. And the way that they move to those routes is using the navmesh agent that they all have attached to them. So one of the things that we could do is when I toss this coin, I could send a message to each one of those guards, and I could say, hey, change your destination, that set destination that's going to the current waypoints. I could say, hey, change your destination to go to the coin position, and we could communicate that position to all of the guards. So that's the objective here that we want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some pseudocode here and kind of map out the idea. This is going to take place in the player script because we're tossing the coin there, and after we toss the coin, we want to communicate with a function that's going to now communicate with all of the guards. So here's our void update. And one of the things that I'd like to do here is we're going to create a method that is going to basically handle the functionality of sending a message to all of our guards. So here, let's call this void send AI to coin spot. And what we want to do here is what information do we want to give to the guards when we call this? So we have send to coin spot, and we want them to go to this hitinfo.point. But can I access hitinfo.point in this method? I can't. The reason for that is because of the scope. Hitinfo.point is only available within this if statement. So how can I get that information over to this function? We can create parameters that this function can take. We can create a parameter that's going to take in a position of the coin. So here we can say vector3, and we can go ahead and say coin position, or coin pose for short. So now the question is how do we get that coin position over to here? Well, if we raycast and we instantiate that coin, we need to notify the guards. So we're going to call our send AI to coin spot function, and we're going to pass in a position of the coin, and that position is going to be the hidinfo.point. If we save this, hop back into our code here at line 64 with our send AI coin spot function, we now have the actual position of the coin. Now all we have to do is round up the guards, and we need to basically round up all the guards. So say we have 3 guards, we need to go through each one. So round up all the guards, go through each guard, and what do we need to do? We need to access their navmesh agent.setDestination. So navmesh agent.setDestination is going to equal the coin pose. So let's go ahead, save our script. Here's the pseudocode. Try your best to attempt getting the AI guards to move to the coin position. I'll see you in the challenge review. In this challenge review, we're going to look at how to send the guards to our coin destination. So we're going to send the AI to the coin spot. Now, before we do that, the first thing we need to do is round up the guards. If you select all of our guards here, you'll see here that they have a tag of guard 1. Unity provides us with a method to grab all of the guards using GameObject.findAll by tag. And we can pass in guard 1 and we'll get a GameObject array of all of these guards. From there, we can access the navmesh agent component, which will allow us to set the destination to the coin. So to do this, we can round up the guards by creating a GameObject array, and we'll go ahead and call this guards. And we can set this equal to GameObject.findAll, find game objects. So here we have find game objects with tag, and let's tag it as guard 1. It's going to go through all the objects in our scene, and it's going to grab all of the guards who are tagged with guard 1, and they'll be populated here. This way, if you had 50 guards in your game, all of them would go to the coin spot. So now we have all the guards. We need to now go through each guard and basically grab the navmesh agent component. To go through each guard, we need to actually iterate through them using a for loop or a for each loop. So I'm going to demonstrate it with a for each loop. We're going to say for each. And the syntax for a for each here, we're going to go ahead and just pass in var. All right, this is just the data type of the object. So here we're going to say just var guard. So for each guard in our guards array, okay, and the data type of var is just universal. Whatever this type here, it's going to be filled in here at compile time, which is game object. And as you can see here, as I highlight it, it says it's a game object. So here for each guard in guards, what do we want to do? I want to get the navmesh agent of the guard. So we have 3 guards. This guard here is going to be the first guard, sub-0. Then it's going to run again, and guard is now going to be 1. It's going to run again, and guard is now going to be 2. So for each guard, I want to get the navmesh agent of that guard. So I'm going to say navmesh agent current guard, and I'm going to assign it to that component. So I'm going to say current guard or current navmesh agent, right, is going to equal the guard dot get component, and I want the navmesh agent off of them. So all I've done is I created a handle to the current guard's navmesh agent. Once I've got that current guard, I can then, or once I've got that navmesh agent, I can then go ahead and say current guard dot set destination, and I can set the destination to the coin position. If we save this, head back to Unity. I'm going to delete the comments down here. If we save this and head back to Unity, we may have a functioning result. Let the game compile and run Unity. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's pass the first guard. All right, and let's see what happens now when we toss our coin. Let's see what reactions the guards have. I toss the coin. You'll notice that nothing happened. It looks like the guards actually froze and we have an error. So what is the error here? It says missing component exception. There is no navmesh agent attached to the point H game object, but a script is trying to access it. So let's look at that point H game object. if we look at all of these point A through B or our point A through H waypoints, because we duplicated our guards on them, they have the property tag of our guard. Select all your waypoints and tag them as untagged. Save your scene. Let's run this again. Okay, so let's run our game. Let's sneak past this first guard here. He's going to go ahead and delay between 2 and 6 seconds over here. Let's see. Oh, and he spotted me. All right, let's go ahead and run that again. Let the game run. All right, there's the guard. Let's pass him. Let's get to the second camera position. All right, and let's go ahead and toss the coin. So we tossed the coin and nothing happened. It looks like everyone's just minding their own business, not really doing anything. Now, why would that be? If we look at our code, we did indeed tell all of them to set their destination to the coin pose. However, in their script, the guard AI script, what happened immediately the next frame? Immediately, they got told to continue on to their current waypoint. So what we need to do is we need a way to determine if the coin was thrown. The guards need to know that the coins were thrown so that we no longer run any of this code, because this code is dedicated to them just traversing between their waypoints. We don't want them to do that if we throw the coin. So they need a variable that's going to signify, hey, we threw the coin. So let's create a public bool in the guard AI script. Public bool coin tossed. The reason why it's public is because we need to be able to access it from another script. So here we have public bool coin tossed. It's false by default. And the first thing we want to do is head back over to our player script, and we basically want to now tell the guard AI that, hey, you are chasing the coin now, or we want to turn that bool to true. So in order to do that, we need to get a handle onto that guard AI script. So just like we have a handle onto their nav mesh agent for the current guard, we want to get the current guard AI. So we have current guard there. So let's go and actually call this maybe current agent. And then here we're going to call it guard AI, and we'll say current guard. So current guard equals the guard, and we're going to get the component that we want, which is guard AI. So now that we have access to our guard AI, we can simply come down here and we can say current guard dot coin tossed, and you'll see here it's available. Set that to true. Now the AI script knows that the coin was tossed. So now that it knows that the coin was tossed, we need to now hop back into our guard AI script, and we need to have it get out of this if statement. So this if statement is called if waypoints.count is greater than 0 and waypoints current target is not equal to null. What we need to do is also include another and in here and make sure that the coin tossed equals false. As soon as coin tossed is true, we want to then go on to another if statement down here, basically an if else statement. So right here we want to have an else statement, and we're going to say here else, and let's tell them to move to the coin. We're going to say basically move to coin position. That's what we want them to do. So how do we go about telling this script what the coin position is? And it might be, if we save this, it might be okay that our player is setting the destination to the coin position. And let's change this to current agent. So here we have current agent, set destination, the coin pose. If we save this, I don't know if this is going to happen too soon before it's actually made its way to this else statement. But let's see. We may need to communicate with the guard AI and have it trigger a function for us that would then put it on the right path. So let's run this code. And ideally, I shouldn't have to go to the second camera. If I actually just toss the coin right here, let's see what happens. So we have one of the guards moving and two of the guards. And actually, all of the guards came to the coin. So let's go ahead and actually run this from a proper standpoint. Let's go ahead and get past this first guard. We'll go ahead and toss the coin in the corner here. And you'll see here that all of the guards are now going there. Now, 2 of the guards stopped their animations. 1 of the guards kept his animation just fine, and you can see now they're kind of battling it out there. So one of the things that we can do to fix this is we want to make sure that their animations get set to walking alerted, or the walk true. Okay, so we can do that through code. We can come in here and we can say, we don't even need this else statement because it worked. Let's hop back into the player class. And in here, we say current guard coin tossed equals true. Current agent, we set the destination to coin pose. And in here, we also want to say, guard AI. And more so, I'd say we want to get their animator component. So let's also get the current guard's animator component so we can set the walk animation. So here we're going to create another component, another handle. We're going to call it current anim equals guard.get component, and we're going to get the animator component off the guard object. Once we have that animator, we can then go ahead and say current anim dot set bool, and if you remember, we created that walk bool, and when it's true, they play their walk animations. Let's set that to true, and let's save this and test it out. Let the code compile. Here we go. All right, let's sneak past the first guard. All right, let's go to the second position. Let's get behind this guard. We're going to toss the coin. All right, all the guards walk to it. Now what we want them to do is when they get to the coin, they need to stop. So that is actually where the else statement in the guard script will come in handy. So if we check out the guard script here, we had that else statement. Let's add that back. We're going to add an else statement here. If they're in this else statement, that means that they are chasing the coin. And what we want to do now is we want to basically check to see if the distance between the coin and them, or wherever their destination is, we want to know if they should stop, right? So if the distance is less than 1 to the coin, let's go ahead and set their animations basically to idle. In order for this to work, this script must know about the coin position. So how do we get the coin position over here? Well, in order for that to happen, we also need to deliver that information. So we're going to say public vector3 coin pose, save this script, go back to the player, and we need to give that coin position. So here in this function, we have the coin pose. We need to now communicate with the guard. We're going to say current guard dot coin pose is going to equal the coin pose that we pass into this function. Now the AI script knows where the coin is and where it's going. So what we can do now is we can calculate the distance between the coin and the guard. So we're going to say float distance. It's going to equal vector3.distance. We're going to pass in our transform.position for the guard. And then the vector3b is going to be the coin pose. Lastly, you want to check if the distance between the coin and the guard is less than 1. If it's less than 1, then we need to say anim.setBool walk is false so that they stand at idle or surrounding the coin. Save your script, head back into Unity, run the game, and let's check it out. We'll walk our way over here. Here we go. Let's get to the second camera pose. Let's drag I'm going to drop our coin. And as you can see, one of the guards stopped. And it looks like they're all doing pretty okay. You'll notice though that they're fighting for that position. So they're fighting for the position to be less than 1. Now, one thing that we can do is that we can actually check, we can set the stopping distance for them. And let's go ahead and set the stopping distance for these guys at like 5. So one of the things we can do is if distance is less than 1, let's say if distance is less than 2.5 maybe. Let's try that. 2.5, let's be safe. Let's do 4. If the distance is less than 4, anim set bool walk is false. We'll run it again. Hit play. All right, let's sneak past the first guard again. Let's get to the second camera position. Toss our coin. And one guard stopped. And there we go. So I'm actually happy with that. You can see here they're still fighting just a bit. One of the things we could do to prevent that is I believe on their actual nav mesh agents, you have a property here called stopping distance. And if we select all of them, turn off auto braking and set the stopping distance to like 3. Oh, and actually you can see that was doing it. So they have actually stopped. So let's stop playing. Make sure that we have auto braking off. And stopping distance can be set to, let's say 1.5. If we run this again, let's test this out. Sneak behind the first guard. Let's go to our second camera position. And here we go. We're going to toss our coin. And there we go. They stop pretty nicely. And they go into idle. So it looks like they're kind of circling there, although it's not terrible. But we could possibly increase the stopping distance. And it looks like if we increase the stopping distance, they stopped. So go ahead and make your stopping distance around 4. I'll see you guys in the next video. In this challenge, I want you to animate Darren throwing the coin. So if we look at our player here, we have our animator component inside our player on the Darren 3D object. Now, if you open up the controller, Darren has a throw animation. So what we want to do is when do we play this throw animation? We want to play this throw animation whether we're walking or if we're idling. Ideally, you want to be in the idle state, but even if you're walking, I want to throw this coin. So here, what we want to do is make transition to throw. From any state. Any state we want to make a transition to throw. And from throw, and actually I think we do want to make sure you're not moving. It would be better. But regardless, after you throw, we want to just go back to idle. Okay? So here, and actually we could go back to walk too, I guess. We can figure this out. But what I want you to do is we're going to go to throw. And after the throw animation plays, what needs to happen? When do we, if walking is false, we're going to go back to idle, right? So we want to know, we have to determine which state were you in when you threw it. If walking is false, you're going to move to idle. If walking is true, you're going to move to walk. All right, so that way you can walk and throw. But ideally, the expected behavior is that you're idle. So here we have our throw animation, and our any state is going to throw. Now, what's going to trigger that throw animation? How are we going to trigger this? We don't have anything that we don't have anything to trigger it. So we're going to create a trigger here. So we can use a bool, but we can also just have a trigger that acts as turning on a game object. And we're going to call this throw. Now what you need to figure out is through code, when you right click, how do we trigger that animation? I'll see you in the challenge review. In this challenge review, we're going to take a look at how to implement the throw animation. So here we have our animation behavior tree that we set up together. The next thing that we need to do is we know that we're going to be using our animator component through script, which we already have. So if we open up our player script here, we already have access to the animator component. It comes down to, though, when I right click, right? We're going to right click. When I right click, I need to play that throw animation. And ideally, I guess we only want to play it if we actually click on something that we can throw on. So right here, I need to play that animation. How do I use that trigger parameter? So let's open up Google and search for animator trigger scripting reference, or Unity, scripting Unity. And you'll see here that here we have the Unity scripting API animator.setTrigger, and sets the value of the given trigger parameter. Now, unfortunately, they don't have any code example here, but we already know how to set a bool, so I'm sure it's not any different from setting a trigger. And if we look at the syntax, it's animator, so _anim.setTrigger, and you pass in the name of the trigger, which for us is throw. So how do we incorporate this through code? Let's open up our script, and let's simply type anim.setTrigger, and open up your tooltip, and it says string name. All right, we have two options here. We can do an int ID or through a name, and the name is throw. So it's going to play that animation once, and if we're idling or walking, it will then take us back to that animation. Save your script, head back into Unity, run the game, and let's check it out. So let's go ahead and we'll sneak past the first guard. Oh, let's get over here before he sees me. Oh, he's going to see me. All right, so we got a game over here. Let's restart this. We'll sneak past the first guard, get to where we're going to toss the coin, and we should see Darren toss the coin animation. And actually, we can just test it out right here. It really doesn't matter. So let's go ahead. We're going to right click. Now, Darren did not play the animation. So let's go ahead and look at our script, make sure we saved everything. Anim.setTriggerThrow. And if we look in our animator here, for Darren, I want to watch this while we actually throw it. I want to see if it actually gets highlighted, because we should be able to throw it from any state. So if we look here on the throw animation, let's go ahead and toss. So it looks like the toss animation is never actually occurring. So let's check that out. And the reason why this isn't working is because we never added the throw to the transition. You can see here that the throw is being called through code because it's getting set to trigger, like it's triggering. However, we don't have a transition here. We need to create a condition inside that transition that says throw. So when we throw, we're going to trigger that throw animation. We'll stop Unity. Let's save our scene. We'll run it again, and we should be good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and watch Darren throw the coin. I'm going to toss it right now. And there you go. Darren does his animation, tosses the coin. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. In this challenge, we're going to focus on the voiceover instruction for Darren to toss the coin. If you look in our game folder here, we have an audio folder, and within it is voiceover. In here, we have toss coin dialogue. That sounds like this.
Darren, if you toss a coin in another location using the right mouse button, then the guards will be distracted, allowing you to sneak on by. Give it a shot.
So when should we tell the player that they can toss the coin? They have the ability to toss the coin. If we select our level colliders, you can see here that we had two colliders in place. One for our camera and one for our voiceover. So here, looking at the level colliders, we have our camera progression triggers, but then we also have our voiceover triggers. And if we select inside here, you can see here that we have a trigger for throw coin voiceover. So it's this trigger right here. So what I want you guys to do in this challenge is I want you to create a modular script that we can apply to each one of these, and it will accept a voiceover track that we want to instantiate into the scene at the main camera's position. To make sure everyone has the same naming convention, we'll create the script together, and then it's off, and then you'll be off on your own. So right click your scripts folder, let's create a new C# script, and let's call this voiceover trigger. And this script is going to be responsible for instantiating the respective voiceover. I'll see you guys in the challenge review. So in this challenge, we're going to go ahead and complete this voiceover trigger. The first thing we need to do is select all three of these, and let's add our voiceover trigger script. Now, in order for us to even walk through these triggers, the first thing we want to do is make sure that the collider is set to trigger. The next thing you also want to do is add a rigid body component, because in order for these triggers to actually occur, one of the objects colliding with them must have a rigid body. Make sure gravity is off so it doesn't fall through the game or the floor. Next we can do is we can add the script, which we've already done. Once you have that, double click it and open it up. All right, once you're ready, the next thing you want to do is you can delete everything in here because we're going to be using onTriggerEnter. So to get the collision, we're going to use void onTriggerEnter. And if you hit enter, the tooltip will fill it in for you. And before we do anything, you want to always make sure who are we checking a collision for? Like who are these boxes on the ground looking for? They're only going to trigger when Darren walks through it, which is the player. So if other, which is the object you ran through the trigger, .tag equals player, then what do we want to do? If Darren collides with us, then we need to instantiate a voice clip. Now, which clip do we instantiate? How do we know what voice clip to instantiate? We need a variable that's just going to be a generic variable called public audio clip, and it's going to be clip to play. If we save this, head back into Unity, on each one of these voiceover triggers is going to be a different audio clip. So as the game's compiling here, if we select our throw coin voiceover trigger, you can see here it's looking for a clip to play. That means that we can now select our throw coin voiceover. It's looking for a clip to play. We can go into our voiceover folder and we can drag toss coin dialog into here. That also means that we can go to the walk behind pillar and we can add the sneak behind columns dialog. From there, we can go to spot sleeping guard voiceover and we can add that track, spot sleeping guard dialog. We have one script that's reusable. The whole idea behind object-oriented programming is to create modular programs that allows for code reusability. From here, let's hop back into our code. And if the tag is player, what we want to do is we then would like to say audio source dot play clip at point, and the clip we want to play is our clip to play. And then the position that we want to play this clip. We want to play this at the main camera's position. So we can say capital C camera dot main, and we can say dot transform dot position. So by typing camera dot main, that's a built-in function in Unity that's going to find the main camera tagged as main, and we can go ahead and get its position. So here we're gonna instantiate that audio clip at the main camera position, ensuring that our player is going to hear it. If we save this, run our game, and test it out, we should get a satisfying result. Let your Unity compile and hit play. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's walk into this trigger.
Darren, if you toss a coin in another location using the right mouse button, then the guards will be distracted, allowing you to sneak on by. Give it a shot.
All right, and there we go. So we got our instruction cue. We get to this camera trigger. I toss the coin. The guards go over there. I can now successfully sneak past them. I'll see you guys in the next video.